Why not call the TV&B Fredericton Viewer Response Line at 462-3636 or get online and visit our website today.
TV used to be so simple. Now you have more choices than ever. Satellite TV, wireless systems, even the phone company. Seems like there's a new one every day. But when it's all said and done, nothing beats cable. And now with digital cable, I get more channels than ever. Even local channels that I don't get with satellite TV. Plus music and internet connections much faster than my phone line can provide. Cable TV. It's really smart.
TVNB would like to remind viewers that beginning March 23rd, TV Bingo on Thursdays, regularly seen at 7 p.m. on Channel 10, will move 1 hour earlier to 6 o'clock during hockey playoff season.
Participation, finding solutions. Getting active is easy. And Canada's Physical Activity Guide shows just how easy it is. Rosella chooses to go skating with her daughter Letitia. They're having fun, and they're also enjoying the benefits of physical activity.
Physical activity is one of the ways in which we have so much fun together.
Rosella's solution is a participation solution. Try it.
My daughter does not cooperate with me.
I've tried that.
I never realized how much patience I didn't have.
Oh, no, everything's fine.
No, I've tried that too.
Once a weekend, we go out as a family.
The sun is shining, it's warm.
Hey, we have to spend some time together.
So that's our time.
We get ready and we go to the park or we go for the mail.
You know, if there's things that we need to talk about or whatever, that's usually the time it happens.
I don't know, just get a bit of perspective.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Production of local programming on TVNB Fredericton is brought to you in part by the generous support of the Sunrise Rotary Club.
Why not call the TV&B Fredericton Viewer Response Line at 462-3636 or get online and visit our website today.
Production of local programming on TVNB Fredericton is brought to you in part by the generous support of the Fredericton Junior Chamber.
Please join me, Carmen Kilburn, as I speak to Fredericton's outstanding citizens on the According with Carmen show on Mondays at 6:30 p.m.
Learn all there is to know as we unveil the answers to fishing in New Brunswick with real evidence of a big catch on Tight Lines, Monday at 7:30 or again Thursday at 4 on TVNB.
We didn't have much to give them, so when they showed up firing them mean looks around the place and staring us down on prices, well, I was angry. Didn't seem to bother my father, though. He had me load another bushel of apples in their trunk. I learned later on that this family was in need.
The greatest gift we give, it's in our heart, what we believe, the way we live.
Caring for others. Pass it on.
For every teacher who strives each day to spark a child's curiosity, the cable industry provides a powerful teaching tool. With commercial-free programs designed for students, Cable in the Classroom is delivered to schools free by your cable company. Now educators across the country can build libraries of commercial-free, copyright-cleared educational programs for teachers to use in class. Cable in the Classroom, a world of learning at your fingertips.
pushed in all the way. I'm going to stop, I can't see it.
Hi.
No, I'm a public conference. Sorry. There's usually someone right around my house.
Get that. Push in on that stool thing there. It's probably too far away to see it.
Pretty steady right now? It's rolling.
These are quick bits. How about I swap a sandbag?
thing just has a great big wobble, and I'm zoomed all the way in on this. And it just
Well, see,
picks
that's
up
the problem.
like
We didn't notice it before because we were zoomed all the way out. You know, quite steady. Okay, let's just go start on this one. Bring your angle down. Pick up 100 feet. Ting. Down. Cancel. This thing settles down. This is going to happen fast.
rolling. Put the camera up here. Tilt it a little bit.
Let's say come down. Just bring the camera up.
I don't know, it's just camera confusing, not you.
Yeah, alright, tilt the camera. It's off the match. It's only the gray camera knows.
Six things.
Friggin' luck. You might have better luck just mounting it right to the tripod. Yeah, we might have. Look at all this wobble. But when they come close to us, we're going to be able to pull back. Smooth enough at that point. Oh, they're closer. Corner handle, right? Here's I got a match.
Yeah.
We have a plane with a camera, just go up the line over here, facing that way.
Yeah.
Get these people on either side of this man of yours. Yep. 5 seconds. Swing it around this way. Wait on the line. Just pull it over here, please. Same shot might work again. Let's get closer. Let's go in really tight on that truck. A little steadier instead of rolling so we can brace it. That's what I have to do, Pat. You have to stay with it all the time. You might not get up to the top.
You say the telephone pole's crooked. Very silhouetted.
Ready?
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I like 10 minutes ago, I got a phone call and I just got off it now. So, hello, everybody. Thank you for coming by for the second digitization stream taking place in the new setup here behind the CHCO television studio. I'm really excited to play some videotapes, watch some vintage community television content. And I'm glad you're all here to watch it with me. How many do we have? We have 11, which is great. So I noticed while I was, during the pre-stream, while I was playing the digitized clips there, something was going on. You guys were seeing, hold on, let me just bring something up here. Let me just bring up a clip here. So it's a little bit squished for some reason. I'm not sure why that happened. Well, I do know why it happened. Somehow the Agile U-tap got set to the wrong resolution. I'm not sure why that happened. There. That looks better, I think. All right. So I've got my... See, you guys have never seen this before. We actually have a box of these at the station, but it's an original Fundy Cable volunteer mug from 1995, or not mug, but you know, a drinking glass. So kind of cool. It's my go-to for a glass of water here. So where do we start? So, like I said in the announcement video, I've done some more work today. I now have the U-matic hooked up, and all I need to get is a couple of audio cables, or make a couple of audio cables, and then the VHS machine will be hooked up. So, like I said in the last stream, the NewTek TriCaster, which is doing the digitization here, it will not play ball with VCRs unless they're time-base corrected. This is fine for the Betacam. It has a built-in time-base corrector, but the VHS and U-matic machines don't. Unfortunately, these are all I have to work with. Unfortunately, we had another Super VHS machine. It was a JVC HR DVS3, which is a combo Super VHS and Mini DV machine, and it had a built-in time-base corrector. We thought it worked. I brought it up to use in this setup. Turns out it was just completely useless. The Mini DV side just ate tapes, and the Super VHS side appeared to have bad video heads. So that VCR is just junk. So I need a way to time-base correct these. We don't have a dedicated time-base corrector, unfortunately, and I can't do my usual... I mean, I could do my usual setup of running either of these VCRs into one of my digital camcorders, because it provides a little bit of time-base correction, good enough for the TriCaster to play with it. But of course, I have no way to hook said DV camcorder into the TriCaster and let you guys be able to see and hear it unless I use my Canopus DV to SDI converter. But then it defeats the whole point of digitizing with the TriCaster, because we're back to a DV stream with that 411 chroma subsampling, which results in not the best color quality in the digitized video. So I found another solution, and it's this DVD recorder. It's a Sony RDR HX750. It's a DVD recorder. It's also a DVR. It's got a hard drive in it, and you can record programming to its hard drive. This thing is actually full of programming from the late 2000s, early 2010s, our own programming. And that's a whole separate project for me to get it off that, because I have to use its built-in GUI to like burn shows to a DVD, bring the DVD to a computer, use Handbrake to pull the footage off the DVD, put the DVD back in, put more shows on it. Unfortunately, there's no direct way to transfer content off of the hard drive for, I assume, copyright reasons. Or it's just Sony being a jerk. Anyway, this guy is important because it also does time-based correction. It has 3 analog video inputs on it. It can accept composite, S-video, or component, which is great. And it has a component output, which is also great. Actually, I correct that. It doesn't have a component input. It does composite and S-video, but it has a component output. And that's fantastic because I can take the component output of this, run it into the TriCaster, and then run these VCRs into the, or these VCRs rather, into the inputs on the DVD recorder, composite for the U-matic and S-video for the VHS. And the DVD recorder applies a little bit of time-based correction, enough for the TriCaster to work, and so I'm able to digitize this and this. I just need to get some more audio cables to hook the VHS machine up to the DVD recorder. So it all works very well. So we will have that ability too. I could do some U-matic tonight, and we possibly will. Another thing, since the last stream, I did some playing with the capture window here, and let me just bring something up on the TriCaster's clip player here. So I played with OBS's settings, and you guys have a slightly higher quality feed now than you did before. I think the Aja U-tap, which is our SDI capture device, which is plugged into the iMac and allowing you guys to view the TriCaster's output, I think the Aja U-tap's not doing standard definition video justice very much. I think it's optimized for high definition. So I think that's degrading the quality a little bit, but then OBS is degrading it further because of scaling and stuff like that. But I played with the settings. I played with deinterlace settings. I played with scaling, filtering settings, and other stuff. And you guys have a slightly better quality view of the transfer now than you did in the last stream. So I'm happy about that. So what do we got in the chat here? Does a component cable look like an RCA cable but in different colors? It's exactly that. It's an RCA cable with different colors. You don't need a specific component cable with red, green, and blue connectors to hook up component. You could just as easily use yellow, white, and red, and it works just fine. So, just RCA. Okay, so let's get started with our first tape, which is actually the last tape I decided not to do in the last stream. It's this Sony UVWT 30MA 30-minute Betacam SP cassette. There were 2 grades of Betacam SP cassette. There were the broadcast grade tapes, which are this one, the BCT series, and there were the lower quality so-called industrial grade tapes, which were the UVWT tapes. Exact same tape stock, exact same tape stock. Basically, I think what they did was for every batch of tape stock they made, they would test how many dropouts were within a certain length of it, and if it was below a certain number of dropouts, that tape stock went into BCT branded tapes. If it was above that threshold, it would be put into UVWT branded tapes. But for all intents and purposes, the UVWT tapes were cheaper and perfectly broadcast quality. So this tape says Frenette edited. There's the tape itself. I actually kind of like the UVWT tapes more than the BCTs because they're in this light gray housing, which is kind of unique, I think. Tape itself says nothing on it. We do have some documentation, though. I'll read this one first. 11 February 1998, Frenette Invu, edited version, Raymond Frenette, Premier. So this would have been the premiere of New Brunswick, I guess. 19 minutes, 9 seconds is the length. The editor signed this paper. And then there's another piece of paper in here which says something completely different, something about a golf tournament. So I don't know if somebody accidentally put the wrong piece of paper in this cassette housing or if it was taped over at some point, I don't know. But I don't think this is a golf tournament. I think this is the interview with the premier because I did briefly look at this. So, we'll get out of here and turn our DDR off. We'll go that. And I don't know if you guys saw, if you followed me on Twitter, of course I'm not using Twitter anymore. Hello, Ariana. Thank you for coming on over. Of course, I don't use Twitter anymore, but if you follow me on Twitter, you know that when I got the TriCaster, a struggle I had with it was that one of the keys, one of the buttons on it was seemed to be stuck on, and you couldn't use the control surface because any key you pressed, it just went back to that stuck key. And the keys use magnetic reed switches. And I can't desolder the switch and put a new switch in because it's a multi-layer board, and I can't possibly desolder it, at least not with the equipment I have. So I was finally able to get inside the switch, destroy the reed contacts, so the switch is open now instead of stuck closed. And I'm able to use the control surface again, which is great because it's a really cool surface and not a necessary part of the TriCaster, but really nice to have. And so it's nice that when I make the video of the TriCaster eventually, I'll be able to use this. And it's nicer than poking buttons on the screen with the mouse. So, wrong mouse, speaking of which. We'll go back here and put our tape in. And so you can't just, you just can't use that one button. Yes, that's right. Yeah, sorry, I missed that part. So that button's disabled now, which is okay because depending on which mode the TriCaster's in, that button either switches to input 4, which is fine. When am I ever going to use more than 3 inputs? When the TriCaster's running in the other mode, that button does, it goes to a black screen, which would have been kind of nice, but it's not necessary. So yeah, all in all, not hardly any functionality lost at all. With the button stuck closed, there was no functionality, so it's certainly an improvement. Okay, so I'm going to mute my mic, and we'll get going here.
Welcome to the Fundy Community Television Studios here in Fredericton. I'm your host, Andrew Holland. We're very pleased to be joined by the legislature member for the riding of Moncton East, and as well the Premier of the province and the leader of the New Brunswick Liberal Party, Mr. Raymond Frenette. Nice to have you here.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
I know that you certainly had a captive audience tonight with the business sector, and this is your first opportunity to talk with the business community here in Greater Fredericton, as your predecessor, Mr. McKenna, certainly had that opportunity for a number of years. Let's talk about your address tonight briefly.
Well, I first want to thank Cable TV for the opportunity, and I want to thank the community of Fredericton for being certainly very attentive to what I tried to deliver this evening, And I want to say at the outset that I think New Brunswickers have every reason to be proud and every reason to feel good about themselves. When I look at over the last few years what we've done in the province in terms of reorganizing our financial situation, our fiscal situation. When I look at last year's budgetary surplus of $125 million, when I look at the outlook for 1998-99, and when I look at, for instance, the major construction that we have on the plate for 1998, I have to tell New Brunswickers that continue to feel good about this and continue to look at the future with certainly a lot of confidence. If you look, for instance, at the unemployment, not the unemployment, but the employment situation, I should say, you know, we have the highest number of people working in New Brunswick in the history of New Brunswick at over 320-some thousand people. I mean, we have to feel good about that. We have to feel good about the fact that over the last 10 years, in restructuring our fiscal situation, by putting fiscal order in our house, we're able, during the coming year, 1998, to invest an additional $34 million in health care. We're able to invest an additional $14 million in education. And this because we've worked with New Brunswickers to restore that financial and fiscal order.
Mr. Premier, you had just talked about the employment situation and the fact that New Brunswick has more people working in this province than ever before, and certainly your minister, Mr. McIntyre, has been on this program to indicate that. However, the unemployment rate really hasn't showed any major change due to the fact that, for whatever reasons, I guess, but can you talk about that just briefly, the fact that, yes, there are more New Brunswickers working, yet the unemployment rate hasn't really dropped?
As I was just saying, I think what's important is that we have more people working, which means that this is additional activities in the province. And not only additional people working, but I think New Brunswick has been able to adjust to the new economy jobs. There are still those traditional jobs available in New Brunswick, but we've been able over the last 10 years, I think, to move people to the jobs of tomorrow. If you look at the jobs, for instance, in the service centers, I think we've got something like 50-some service centers right now with 6,000 jobs in New Brunswick that we didn't have 10 years ago. So we've been able to get people to adjust to those new jobs. And if you look at the new in the information technology, again, New Brunswick and different parts of the province have been able to move into that sector and take full advantage of the benefits that can be derived from those sort of job creation. Look at tourism. Look at tourism. We've had a major increase in tourism during 1997, and we're forecasting even another increase in 1998. I suggest to you that people again have reason to be very happy and feel good about those things.
I noticed in your speech you had earmarked Ontario and Quebec as areas to expand tourism activities and promotions. Certainly the eastern states must be a good area to target due to the fact that our dollar must look attractive to that area.
Well, it should, and we usually get our share from that market every year, but last year we put special emphasis, as you know, on Quebec. The upcoming year we plan to target Ontario, and actually the States remains one of our main target area, and hopefully we can continue to capitalize, especially on the dollar exchange, which should be to our advantage.
In your speech tonight, you certainly paid tribute to Mr. McKenna for his role, and in conjunction with that, there was a vision conference, and you talked about the Calgary Declaration. Out of that meeting, certainly there was some sort of a consensus that shipbuilding should be a priority. I know that our viewers this evening in St. John would like to hear more about that. What assistance or what target or strategy will be put in place for the people of St. John in regards to the shipbuilding industry?
Well, you remember when Mr. McKenna recommended or suggested that we develop a shipbuilding policy for Atlantic Canada, which is part of this Atlantic Vision paper that has been developed, and I am in a discussion right now with my colleagues in Atlantic Canada. As a matter of fact, on our recent trade mission in South America, the 4 Atlantic premiers, we talked about it, and we're supposed to have a telephone conference call on it later this week or early next to continue trying to bring this to some sort of a consensus. And I must say there is very good support from all parts so far. But I want to say that as part of that initiative in the fall of 1997, Atlantic Vision, there has been discussion between the Ministers of Finance of the 4 Atlantic provinces with the Federal Minister of Finance. I've had discussion with the Prime Minister, and we're trying to do exactly that, develop that shipbuilding policy. And it's going to take some time, but as long as we continue working at that, I think that is where we will end up getting some result, positive results, so hopefully.
You talked in your address too about the HST. Of course, this is the first year it's been really put in place, and the effects of it really, to really evaluate, it's going to take a little bit longer of a time. But I'm going to ask a couple of pointed questions in regard to that. There was an initiative to assist seniors in terms of their home heating bills. Any other thing in store perhaps for seniors? Because there's been, the Seniors Federation has come out and indicated that I guess the benefits of the HST or the effect of the HST has been greater on a negative side as opposed to just the endeavor of the home heating.
Well, as we gave a commitment that we would do something in terms of child credit, and we have distributed some $25 million, as you know, in that respect. And we also gave a commitment in terms of seniors, and we are proceeding in that respect. There will be initiatives introduced on the floor of the House any day now to that effect. In terms of other matters or issue pertaining to seniors, we've had a meeting, what is it, about 3 weeks to a month ago with the Seniors Federation and the Minister of Health, the Minister of Human Resources, and myself. I just dictated a letter 2 days ago to the Federation saying that over the next week or two at the most, hopefully, we can meet again and pursue our discussion. What we've done, we've asked them to put forward their thoughts on a number of issues, and they've already done that. We're evaluating those suggestions by the Federation, and hopefully over the next few weeks we'll be able to meet to continue our dialogue. I for one, believe very strongly that dialogue usually results in solution, and it's when we stop talking that we have problems. That's a little bit what I was trying to do when I was in northern New Brunswick 10 days ago, and the problem up there with Saint-Sauveur and Saint-Simon. And I met with the parents, I opened the dialogue, and I found their presentation to me to be quite emotional, quite disturbing, and I tried to share with them the problems that they were having, and it seems to me that if we do that, and we do it on a regular basis, it doesn't matter what issues we face. I think that as elected people, if we talk with the people, talk about the people who have problems, I think we usually end up finding solutions. But without talking, usually we don't get anywhere, and I'm one of those who believe firmly in that.
In terms of the HST, too, just briefly back to that, you talked about retail sales being up a bit. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business sort of did a comparison, and they believe that the retail sector has been lagging in comparison. The first 6 months it was slow. Lately there's been a gain, but overall they say that there's a lag. How can they be assisted in terms of that?
Well, I think we got, as you said a while ago, we have to give it a little bit more time and see what is going to happen. I'm still very, very confident that the measures that we've put forward with the HST is the right one. As a matter of fact, I am confident that those are the sort of things that we have to do, so that whether it's the retailer or the consumer, makes it easier to do business at all levels. But it's going to take a little bit more time, maybe, so that people will see the benefit of this.
You certainly talked a lot about tolls this evening, people between Greater Fredericton and Moncton. Certainly, you listed off the New Brunswick organizations and companies that are affiliated in this agreement that will be benefiting for sure. Certainly positive news in terms of job creation. And you also indicated that those that are opposed may not be aware of all the facts. And you mentioned because of one individual. We're not going to talk with the one individual, but your own personal view, do you think the tolls are fair?
Well, sure they are. I think that in the case of the toll highway here, I think we got to call it as it is. It's either there was going to be tolls or we're going to have the highway 20 years from now. And if I have the choice, I'm going to go and do it in 4 years, and that's what the government decided. And I think the people of New Brunswick will have every reason again to be proud and feel good about this highway. Because who in New Brunswick has not experienced following 4 or 5 or 6 of those large tractor trailers? And in the best of condition, it's dangerous. In the worst of condition, it leads very often to a fatal situation. And really, if we want to do away with that carnage and the unnecessary loss of lives on our highways, we had to make a decision, and not 20 years from now, but now. And what I've been asking on the floor of the legislature in that respect, and I ask again this evening, where does the opposition stand here? What would they do? We've decided that we were going to eliminate, do away with that carnage and provide a solution. Yes, there is a toll. It's a reasonable toll. As a matter of fact, it's the lowest toll in Canada. And New Brunswick is not the only one with toll highways. But no doubt, when you introduce a change, there's a reaction from the people. And we expected this.
What about from your own caucus? I know that
from
Mr.
my own
Theriault
caucus
has indicated that the Moncton stretch, the Petitcodiac, Riverglade, that there shouldn't be a toll on that. Do you have some difficulty with that?
He didn't say that. What he said, he thought that the matter was being reviewed, and when he checked on it, he realized it was not reviewed, and he corrected that in the House, and he called the Times and Transcript and corrected the situation. The thing is here is that we were faced with resolving a problem. And we had to do it in 4 years or in 20 years. We chose to do it the responsible way. And I suggest to you that look at the pieces of highways that are now completed, how proud New Brunswickers are of it. I mean, I look at opposition members and they're criticizing this. And the line I've used on the floor of the House, and I didn't use it in my speech this evening because of the fact that this is a State of the Province address, and I don't want to get political, but the only solution that was offered by the opposition is a 3-lane highway. I mean, what is that going to do for New Brunswick? You know, you have one highway, one lane going east, the other lane going west, and a third one for the Tories because they don't seem to know which way they want to go. So as far as I'm concerned, we've got to come up with imaginative, creative solution, and in this case, the public-private partnership, doing it in 4 years, eliminating the carnage on our highways was the responsible thing to do. And what we're asking citizens is to pay a toll, but a toll that saves them time, and it saves them mileage, it saves them gasoline, and it's been determined that basically you're ahead of the game if you pay the toll. Now, there is certainly a question that's been asked about people from between Petitcodiac, or rather Riverglade and Moncton, as to whether or not they should pay the toll. They don't have to pay the toll. There's a highway, there's 3 ways for those people to go from Riverglade to Moncton, I understand. And there is a very modern, up-to-date piece of highway, the former Trans-Canada, that's there and available.
We just have about 4 minutes remaining in this interview. I want to talk about issues that certainly affect the whole province. This one's the St. George, St. Andrews region. What is the province intending to do? It's certainly been in the news, but the serious situation facing the salmon and aquaculture situation in the Bay of Fundy. The province is handing out new licenses, but there's some concerns about overcrowding in the Limekiln Bay area near St. George, which aids the spread of a virus that many salmon are dying from. I'm certainly not a fisheries expert, but does the government have any type of a plan to assist this industry, or any type of a compensation initiative for claims, or has the government evaluated this yet?
Yes, we've, as a matter of fact, the Minister of Fisheries is quite concerned. It's a very important industry to the economy of the province, and we've got to address that. We've put together 2 or 3 solutions that the Minister of Fisheries is discussing with the people involved, and hopefully it will meet with their expectation out there. We've got to take steps to protect that, which is, as I said, certainly an important part of our economy out there and in the rest of the province.
2 other issues quickly that affect the province. Certainly a good initiative to assist the people in the Acadian Peninsula area, the suicide issue, funds are being put forth to that. What type of an impact do you think that will have on that
Well,
situation?
I would hope positively. I hope that especially when you deal with young people, maybe while I'm on the subject of young people, I can introduce the subject of the Sommet de la Francophonie, the Francophone Summit that's coming to New Brunswick in 1999. And the province of New Brunswick, we've already taken steps to make youth the subject, of the theme of the summit in question, and it would be an opportunity again to give youth the importance it should have, because there's a number of areas pertaining to youth that government must address.
You've indicated that the government has had an addiction to video gambling in terms of the revenues. You know, I know that it's an ongoing situation. How can the government, let's say, be treated in terms of this? Where can the government raise the revenues, let's not say video gambling, but from other sources that are more acceptable to the public?
Well, I've tried in the throne speech, and I'm in the process right now with the officials to initiate some steps leading towards solution there. I took the first step of announcing the government is going to pull out the machines from the corner stores, which basically addresses the accessibility issue.
When's that going to start, just for the benefit of the viewers at home?
Well, I'm hoping that over the next 3 to 6 months at the latest, we should be into that process of removing them. But when I say that, I'd like to answer the question that you raised about the addiction. Yes, government, I've indicated that publicly already, is addicted to the revenues, and we got to try and adjust to somehow to a reduction in those revenues possibly. And the same thing with the other parts of that issue. There's certainly the contract with the coin operators has been the subject of concern, and I can tell you we are addressing that too, and I'm hoping to have a solution not too distant future.
Less than a minute left. I know that the announcement pertaining to the natural gas pipeline, very exciting. You had indicated tonight in your address that there must be a way to certainly extend a lateral to the north. How will that be done? Will it be based upon a market or a supply requirement?
Yeah,
or
it'll be done based on market, but I'm convinced that our government will have a lateral going up north. And more importantly, we'll have natural gas in New Brunswick in the not too distant future, and it's going to create a whole lot of construction activities, and again, that will create jobs, provide New Brunswickers with additional energy security, and that is very important to New Brunswickers. So, and I'm glad you raised that. Natural gas coming to New Brunswick is another reason why New Brunswickers should feel real good about 1998, because it's all going to happen this year, I believe.
I want to thank you very much for taking the time to join us here, Mr. Premier.
Pleasure.
And the best of luck in the coming months, and certainly as your party goes towards a leadership convention, we'll be monitoring that. And again, thank you very much for doing this. Very pleased to be joined tonight by the legislature member for the riding of Moncton East, as well as the leader of the Liberal Party of New Brunswick, and as well New Brunswick Premier, Mr. Raymond Frenette, for joining us here in our Fundy Community Television studios in Fredericton, and as well speaking to business leaders at the Chamber of Commerce address. I'm Andrew Holland. Thank you very much for joining us, and have a pleasant evening.
Cool. Don't know if there's any more on this tape. There's still a control track on it. That whole time I was fixing this broken U-matic tape, and I had the hardest time getting the tape to do, getting the sticky tape to do what I wanted. But anyway, I got it back together, I think. I don't think it's back together correctly, because I shouldn't be able to open the tape door without pressing the interlock.
Than just sitting around watching TV or watching hockey highlights.
But it works.
I mean, that's all great, and I do that. You know, I watch hockey like it's going out of style. But I mean, I think when I can sit down in my bed before I go to sleep and read a part of Derek Sanderson's book, I mean, Old Boston Bruin. I mean, I think that's a great aspect, and it's a great feeling when it starts to put me to sleep. You know, and I say, wow, okay, that's enough for the night. I'm going to go to sleep. And I mean, I'm doing what I love, but at the same point, I know that when hockey's over, I'm still going to be able to read the newspaper, or if I own, I don't know, a business, I know I'll be able to read the books and find out where everything's going. And I think that's a big part of your life.
I don't know if I should digitize this stuff. I guess maybe I should. That's what I've always done. I've always digitized partial stuff and just put it in its own category of stuff. So maybe I'll back it up and...
It's going out of style, but yeah.
And then while that's playing, I'll prepare the U-matic machine for this tape. I'll clean the heads and stuff.
Than just sitting around watching TV or watching hockey highlights. And I mean, that's all great, and I do that. You know, I watch hockey like it's going out of style. But I mean, I think when I can sit down in my bed before I go to sleep and read a part of Derek Sanderson's book, I mean, Old Boston Bruin. I mean, I think that's a great aspect, and it's a great feeling when it starts to put me to sleep. You know, and I say, wow, okay, that's enough for the night. I'm going to go to sleep. And I mean, I'm doing what I love, but at the same point, I know that when hockey's over, I'm still going to be able to read the newspaper, or if I own, I don't know, a business, I know I'll be able to read the books and find out where everything's going. And I think that's a big part of your life. I mean, you're only playing hockey until probably 33, 34, 35. There's still half of your life left. And I mean, if you can't do some of the things you want because you don't know how to read, then I don't think that's a great situation to be in. And I mean, I obviously try to explain it to the child the best way possible. But
that's great. Thanks for literacy. What's the state of literacy? How big a problem is illiteracy in the Brunswick?
Well, we have historically had quite a problem with illiteracy in this province, but we're overcoming it slowly but surely. We're making progress, so I have every hope that we'll continue to make progress.
This program must be a dream come true for you. These guys are big role models for young kids, young New Brunswick kids.
Well, that's what how we do our how we're going to make gains on illiteracy in this province is through partnerships and through people getting involved and expanding the circle. And we're really pleased. You're right. We're really pleased to have the Canadians on board, and they are role models to young children. And it's the young children that we have to reach.
Okay, it's great.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Okay, that's about it for me.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. No problem. I just wanted to ask you about literacy in New Brunswick and how important is this program for you?
Okay, now I'm glad I'm digitizing this. This is kind of funny.
Like something like that, secondhand, showing maybe the Minister of State, the Earl, or somebody like that.
Yeah.
But it'd be nice to get a couple of others.
I'm guessing, since I haven't seen him here yet, that he must be planning to go just finish.
Saturday night during the intermission of the Phoenix games.
Will it be on tape? Okay. So for listening to Brunswick, I can drop down in front of cable and pick one up? Okay.
Also be on next week's news magazine. It's our Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. It's our most watched show so far. Other than the Canadian season.
Yes, true.
You're welcome.
Your card? My dad. That was yeah. And who else did my dad? You did. You did. Both you guys did my dad.
I told them that.
Look, we had people crying when they read your quotes. They were very emotional. They were very nice. Of Mice and Men.
They wrote it wrong in the thing, I think.
What do you mean?
I think it says of men and mice.
No.
Doesn't it?
Oh, the French.
Oh, okay.
Spence might have
Okay.
might have gotten it back.
That's all right.
By the same token, if we were to shorten that those two rosters to just one roster, obviously that team is going to be that much stronger again and would be a worthy opponent of either all-star teams from Ontario or the West, or very possibly an American contingent, if not a traveling European club.
You had to scram a little bit this year because of circumstance in Halifax, I know, but how did you arrive at Fredericton as a location for the game?
I think we've always looked at Fredericton as a great sports town. Right now, we've got two of the finest university hockey programs in the country here, and we've been talking to the folks. We've got two of our
Alright, that was it. End of the control track. I had a heck of a time getting the U-matic machine open. One of the screws was stripped out. It was a screw that I put in, a spare screw I had, so I had to get these to grab it and get it out. And I'm trying something new for cleaning the video heads, just because the paper and alcohol trick, as well as it works, the paper is slightly abrasive. I bought a pack of these chamois swabs. So these are not cotton swabs that have the same risk of cotton threads catching on the video heads and destroying them. These don't have that issue. So I'm trying with dipping these in alcohol and using them to clean the heads. The only thing is, so far every time I've used them, you can't visually see that any dirt has been picked up. So I don't know if dirt has been picked up and these just hide it, or are they not picking up any dirt? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. Okay, so that was the end of that. I'll just scrub through the end of the tape here. I guess while that's doing its thing, I can do our thing, which is switch to the DVD recorder, and then I don't know what input it's on. On input 2, which is not right, should be Input 1. Input 1. Okay. So, turn this guy on. Oh, it didn't even try to turn the tape. That might be an issue. Alright, what are you doing? Oh, the interlock works again. Okay. Alright, what are you not liking? I think the tape's just stiff, maybe? Friggin' U-matic, man. I forgot how much of a hassle these are to transfer. There we go. This U-matic VCR. There. That's the biggest tank of a VCR that I've ever used. You guys have seen firsthand how much freaking abuse this thing takes, and it just keeps going. Never an issue. All the abuse, broken tapes fixed with duct tape, constant head clogging and head cleaning. Like, this thing should have died dozens of tapes ago. As it is right now, it is struggling very hard to rewind a stiff tape. Oh dear. Oh boy. Friggin' stiff tapes, man. Unfortunately, I don't have my drill here. Do the drill tip to, drill trick, rather, to rewind the tape manually. It's not that stiff when you do it by hand. I don't know. Oh, you know what? The tape must be sticky. That must be what's going on. Let's see, can I do this? Yeah, PTSD flashbacks. Ooh, it is getting a little stiff there. But we'll see if it transfers. Oh my gosh, how much tape is there? Okay, now will you rewind? Nope. We will transfer this tape if I can get it rewound. Do it by hand. Oh, is that it? Nope. Just a really stiff spot. Oh. Well, these are even easier to advance by hand. You don't have to stick anything anywhere. They just they spin freely. The issue is that the tape itself has gone sticky, and it's very hard to spin. Oh, is that it? I think that's it. Yep, that's it. Okay. So this is obviously a 3M broadcast cassette, UCA series cassette. They're lower end series of cassettes. because these are the ones that always get sticky and always are super stiff to rewind. Anyway, this tape says, recorded November 2nd, 1993. Arts Magazine, one of my least favorite things to transfer just because it's so boring, but that's okay. 30 minutes and 5 seconds. Anything else in here? Nope. Alright, let's do an Arts Magazine. See how far we get before the VCR dies. Yeah, that's good. This is my first time doing an actual transfer from U-matic with this setup, so I have no idea how this is gonna work, but we're gonna find out. And of course, I gotta remember with U-matic, I've got to dial in the skew control and stuff. So I'm gonna switch back here. So the U-matic's actually wired in a unique way. The video output actually goes straight to the PVM. And that's so I can do the horizontal vertical delay on the PVM, look at that horizontal blanking interval and use it to set the skew control on the VCR. And then the loop output of the PVM's composite input is what's going into the DVD recorder. So I have a very direct feed from the U-matic whenever I want it. But other than that, it's going to the DVD recorder, and then from the DVD recorder to the TriCaster. I was just moving the DVD recorder and seeing something changing on the screen. I'm not sure. I don't like that. I am moving the DVD recorder and it's inducing changes to the output signal. I don't know if I just got a loose wire or what. I'm gonna say that it's okay. Alright. Oh, I also gotta remember I'm doing different audio channels, so I gotta mute these channels. You know what? Let's just do a test play before I start transferring, because I have no idea how the audio's gonna be dialed in. Yeah, the U-matic's board is, I've just left it open. I've just left it open so I can have access to the heads. You know what? While this is sitting here, I should calibrate the TriCaster's input since I have color bars. So input to, I'll back it up here. I don't know if these are 75% bars or 100%. I'll go 100 and see what it does. Okay. They might be 75% bars. Not sure. We'll see what the rest of the video looks like. They might be 75% bars. Yeah, I'm gonna go back. Do the 75% bar calibration. Oh, it didn't finish calibrating. Come on. It's looking almost the same. Why? Are they not 75% or 100%? Let's try the 100% again. Okay, so let's just hit pause there. And so what's the difference here? I'm not really seeing, it doesn't look like it's calibrating much differently either way. I don't know if it likes calibrating when the VCR is paused. Let's see. That's the 100%. Now we'll go to 75%. Yeah, I think that's the correct. I think that's correct. I'm gonna say correct enough for the girls I date. Lesbians. Right, I want to... Why do I have no sound? Why do I have no sound? I've completely lost sound. I don't know why. What the heck? I had sound. It's not muted. What's going on here? So I'm getting sound from the VCR, but did the TriCaster crash? Like, did the TriCaster screw up and it's not giving me audio anymore? Because I'm getting direct from the VCR. I'm getting good audio. You know what? I'm just gonna reboot the TriCaster software right quick. It is not uncommon for TriCasters to crash. That was sort of one of the downsides, just sort of the nature of being a Windows PC running Windows XP. Nothing wrong with Windows XP itself, it's just the nature of it being a very complex PC program. Nothing. Why have I lost audio? Oh my god. I'm so confused. Hold on, let me go back to the beta cam. Let me just play the beta cam again. Yes, I'm getting Betacam. But I'm not getting the U-matic. Okay, let me start switching inputs around. We're going into hard troubleshooting mode, I guess. No. Did the DVD recorder crash? I'm so confused. What? Okay, hold on. More troubleshooting.
Theater runs a young company, but I was in Fredericton, and there aren't a lot of different theaters. When you see, I had applied for a few jobs in Fredericton, and it seemed like it was a detriment to put down.
The U-matic's stereo audio outputs aren't working. The monitor out jack is working. The stereo out's not working. Do I have something switched wrong here? I'm so confused. Because I just plugged the PVM into one of the stereo jacks and there's nothing.
It's great. He said, I'm hoping to start a dinner theater here because he'd been to see one in PEI. Sure. So,
Oh,
yeah,
one of them's
it
working.
became,
Okay. Oh, there's only audio on one channel. Okay, the U-matic, the VCR is fine.
right on top of you on a stage not bigger than this couch, doing something like Private Lives or whatever show we've been able to do. Did you tackle some right?
Sorry, I didn't consider that there'd only be audio in one channel. I just happened to test the wrong channel. So the VCR is fine. The output. That's fine. Okay, let's try something else here. Let's hit play on the DVD recorder. Oh, it's going to play a silent thing I put on it, though. That's the only thing. Oh, can I play other clips? Nope. Oh, yes, I can. Okay. I have no idea what this is. It's working. So there is sound. So that's working fine. But the input's not working.
We did it with. There was something to laugh at, and a little bit about Lucien too, I suppose, is that it's.
Oh. Oh my God! It's just a dirty jack. Are you kidding me? Oh, or it could be a bad cable. It is. It's a bad cable. Oh my God. We have a bad cable. Okay, fine. Problem solved. We have a bad audio cable going from the U-matic's stereo output to the DVD recorder. So, what can I do? I have a spare cable here. So I'm just wondering. I do this, that's working fine. Okay. So I need something with stereo sound on it to test. I think possibly the intro sequence has a stereo track. I do have a spare cable. I'm just not sure which cable's broken. Boy, I miss doing this. Nope. Giving me wild PTSD. Does the color bars use both channels? Yes, it does. Okay, so it's not this cable. Okay. So I'm going to take my spare cable here. Man, not proud of how long it took me to figure that one out. All right, spare cable going in. Hey, we got both channels. Okay. All right. Can we start digitizing now? Okie doke.
Theatre New Brunswick is just going to start its new season. Like I said the other day, we're starting our new season and they're starting theirs. One of the nice things that Michael Shimata has done since he's been artistic director is to make sure that we get friends back. It makes for a very close sense with our theatre, Theatre New Brunswick. I mean, for instance, in this season, we've got Douglas Campbell coming back in The Secret Garden. We've got Jenny Mundy coming back. And the very, very first show, which is opening very shortly, we got a very special guy, a New Brunswick chum, I'm going to call him, and that's Marshall Button. Hi, Marshall.
Hi, George. Thank you for that.
Well, you are a New Brunswicker, are you originally?
Of course. I'm from a town called Dalhousie, which is feels like the kind of forgotten poor cousin of the province. I was there. Part of the process in getting the show together was we decided to rehearse in Dalhousie. And it was about, we had been here for 3 or 4 days to deal with the set and to work in the rehearsal hall and establish where because it's set in a bar, where the bar is, where the table is on the stage. And then we were going up there to, well, I had spent a fair amount of time there over the last 12 months getting this show written and developed. But just to get immerse ourselves in the culture of this guy and where he works and where he lives. And I happened to, because we were working in the town hall, and I'm a good friends with the mayor of Dalhousie, find out that there was a council meeting. And so at this council meeting there were several big issues, the big one that came up that day was bad TV reception they're getting. And it's that new CBC station, Fredericton. They're not getting good reception from that. So this was a big issue in the town. But one of the things that came up was that somebody pointed out that there was a brochure that came up that said Discover Nature, or I think it was put out, through Parks Canada. But in this brochure they mention, it seems like every town in New Brunswick, and from Olac to Fundy, and there's no mention of Dalhousie. And they always feel like they're being left out. So I'm very happy that this character is rooted in that town, and I've been able to take it right across Canada, and no matter where I've gone, I can say with great sincerity that I've never once done a show where I haven't met someone who was born from within half an hour of where I was born.
Really?
They're spread all over the country,
Marshall, I first met you when you were doing dinner theatre, and
yes.
I mean, you guys were really, you and Jenny Mundy,
yes.
again, were really pioneered dinner theatre in this area.
Yeah. I had worked, I guess I was the only one of the original members of the very first meeting of Comedy Asylum. There were people there like Norm Foster, who's Canada's most produced playwright now. There are any number of about half a dozen people who live in various parts of the country now, and there are a lot of Frederictonians. In fact, people like Sean Wright, Sean Clark. These are all equity actors. Some have worked at my theatre. I run a theatre in Morrisburg, Ontario, the Upper Canada Playhouse. But it was what we thought was a little humble group. Vaughn Fulford, who's with the theatre company in British Columbia now. And I know I'm leaving out a couple of names, but it was very impressive. And I was the only one at the time who had any professional experience. I guess I was maybe a little bit older, and I had worked in the Grand Theatre in London, Ontario, and a little bit with Theatre New Brunswick Young Company. But I was in Fredericton, and I mean there aren't a lot of different theatres in Fredericton, let alone New Brunswick. And I thought, well, I'm an actor. What do? I'll go apply for a job as a waiter. And the manager at the time, who's a good friend of mine, he's now teaching the hotel business in British Columbia. You see, I had applied for a few jobs in Fredericton, and it seemed like it was a detriment to put down that I was an actor. So I lied, and I didn't put on my resume that I work. I have a degree in theater and that I have acting experience. So this guy said, he looked at me, first thing he saw was my university degree. He said, it was an interesting time, he said, I love hiring university graduates as waiters, waitresses. He said, they make really good waiters and waitresses. I don't know why. Anyway, he said, well, what else have you done? And he looked like he was going to give me the job, see, so I felt guilty for not telling him this. So I said, well, look, I have to tell you that, I'd worked in the theater and thinking this would be a strike against me, and it was Lou Roloffson. He said, oh, that's great. He said, I've been hoping to start a dinner theater here because he had been to see one in PEI, and he said, would you be interested? And I said, sure. So yeah, it became, I mentioned about having a degree in theater, but it was not the same as, I guess you'd been there, you have 230 people crammed in this little room right on top of you on a stage not bigger than this couch, doing something like Private Lives or whatever show we may have been doing.
But you tackled some really tricky stuff, didn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember you doing The Lesson.
Yes, yeah.
Which, I mean, that's a real risk play to do, I would have thought, in that setting.
It seemed to work, yeah.
It sure did.
Yeah, I think the thing was we got our audience first. We always made sure they were entertained, and then they came on board. And I have a similar experience now running this theater in Morrisburg where we do.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, what you're doing.
Exclusively new plays, or not exclusively, but primarily, I would say, new plays. And we make sure we entertain them, but for a lot of these people, and it was true of the Comedy Asylum, it's been their first exposure to theater. So they got to be friends of the company. It's a very tiny place I live in now, and our audience are made up of local people who come from the little villages. Of course, now they got the bug, and they've gone on, and they say, "Want to see that Phantom of the Opera show in Toronto?" That was,
oh, really?
Yeah, you know, no, but I don't know if they'll ever come back to our theater now. You know.
Yeah, they'll expect chandeliers and candles coming up and
special effects and all that. But I think it was a similar thing with Comedy Asylum. We always made sure, and hence the title comedy. We made sure that it's a broad, as you know, it's a broad genre. There were many different types of plays. I don't know if the lesson could be called the Ionesco, a comedy, but we did it with another farce, a Fado farce, that kind of made sure there was always something to laugh at, and a little bit about Lucien too, I suppose, is that I never ever considered the play a comedy, but people come to laugh. I think you try to capture the reality of a given character or a given situation in the world, and if you come close to being real, there may be some recognition and laughter tied in.
With your theatre company in Ontario, I mean, this is full-time apart from coming out and doing stuff like this. Do you have that adventurous subject matter that you did with Comedy Asylum?
Yeah, I mentioned we do new plays, so it's always a risk. I just took a day off rehearsal and flew up because I had to leave before our last show of the season opened. And I only had the idea for the show. I didn't write or direct or participate. Well, that's the joy of being an artistic director. Like in the case with Michael has done with this, he's decided, and it was his idea for me to do the sequel to Lucien. But yeah, as an artistic director, you can get a concept and then just like putting kids in the room with the right toys, hopefully come back after 3 or 4 weeks and see the results. And this show we did was about the flooding of the St. Lawrence Seaway, which 7 villages were wiped off the map in this little area near Morrisburg where I live, between Cornwall and Morrisburg. It was the 7 lost villages. And to go there just this past Tuesday and see where the audience is made up of, I would say over half the people were affected directly by this project. They had been relocated, taken out of their homes in which their great-grandfathers had made this farm what it was, and now it's underwater. So you talk about the drama of that and the impact, like the character from Ontario Hydro in the play saying, you know what this means, and by the 1990s this place will be teeming with jobs, and the irony of that. But these people to have lived through this and now are seeing it, holding up the mirror on the stage and saying, here's your life. And then afterwards, there wasn't really sometimes at our theater we have talkbacks. The audience stays behind and they make comments or ask questions of the actors or director or writer if they're around. And but they were just hanging around, and there was a couple in the lobby who felt that they had to tell their story, and it was to the people who sold the tickets, but they felt they had to relate their own, and the woman was in tears recalling how she had lost her home to this flooding. So that's really what makes the job worthwhile.
Yeah. Oh, now I've got to ask you about Lucien.
Yes.
I'm sure there's lots of people want to know the sort of things I'm going to ask you, Marshall. Was he a real person?
There's nobody who I think I've modeled him directly from, but I would say I could name 4 guys that I worked with, and an uncle, and really Pepper, my grandfather, who are very, very much like him. And of course he's modeled after a version of myself. People say, how do you do that accent?
He is an alter ego, then.
Yeah, I guess. He's very different. I would never say half of the things that he would say, and he's very unpolitically correct, as you may gather.
Yeah.
But so when I go there and I go through the mill and I meet people in the bars in my town, I often make the comment, I don't think I've ever written anything original in my life. Somebody says something and I'll find the spin on it. It's a line I heard somewhere, or I'll take something perhaps that, half a sentence that my mom said to me when I was 16. I have one of these flytrap memories. I pretty well can remember anything interesting I've ever heard. So as if you want to call me a writer or someone who puts it all together, it's very important for me that it isn't one person, so that I'm able to draw from many different sources, including many national prominent figures who say things that I think are kind of in Lucianese or whatever. But he is he's pretty much his own guy, and he's certainly being an alter ego, and as a writer now, you know, it's gotten to the point where you could point, you know, you could say garbage can, microphone, cassette tape, give me 5 minutes and I could come back with a little monologue or his spin on something. You know, you
Really?
get so rooted with the character in that sense. Yeah.
He's not really, I mean, you've been incredibly successful with him because he really is one of our legends now.
I never ever thought that it would be something other than just a play which had a quick run here in Fredericton and a little tour of the province. And I was very, and I still am, a little uncomfortable with the notion that the character is something other than the play. But it has become that, you know, in a sense that I've sometimes been interviewed as a character, and you know, I get paid for it, so I guess I do it. But I do this thing on Morningside now. I go and make commentaries as the character.
As Lucien.
Yeah, like with the Senate. I did a thing this summer when the Senate were voting to rescind their $6,000 raise. So they call up on a Thursday and said, you know, they're voting Monday. So I go in Friday afternoon to record this monologue about the Senate, and it really forces you to write. But as the character, I kind of have his spin on that. And it has a definite beginning, middle, and end, but I'm not really doing a play. I mean, I'm making a commentary as that character, and I was a little afraid of that. I think the thing that's kept my sanity in doing this thing so much over the past 7 years is the fact that being an artistic director and an actor and director, I've been able to work on many, many other interesting and exciting projects, none of which have had the same success of this, but it's kept my kind of, I mean, you know, if you're working on a particular craft and you're doing, you know, umpteen of these little works, and you know, you want to reproduce that, you know, or you're making a lovely item. It's great when you make it once, but you like to be able to get your fingers in other bits of clay and wood and brass or whatever you may be working with, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's a similar thing.
But you know, I remember when we did Storyfest and Lucien appeared.
Yes.
You know, people just welcomed him. I mean, they'd really see him as a friend now, and it's so appropriate you're opening TMB season.
Yeah, it's great you should bring up Storyfest. There's a part of the play which seems to be, when I read it for the staff here, most everyone's favorite bit, and it's a story that was told, an old story. You probably heard this one where the girl goes to the bar and meets the devil, and of course it's always told in New Brunswick, very Catholic thing, but it's told that it really happened, and you know, there's always somebody what was there, and where he burns the holes in her back, and the last dance kind of thing with his hands. So I tell that near the end of the play, and it's pretty much a story I heard as a kid there, and it is so kind of North Shore Catholic, you know, French fear of the devil stuff, because it's a big theme in the play. Is kind of, it's a play about male menopause, I think, as much as anything this time.
Really?
And but he has this notion of this bar that he's in having a curse on it. So it's all of these notions and stories, and I picked up a lot. Even though I was here for 2 or 3 days, it was a good experience for me to be around these storytellers and the atmosphere that, you know, you're picking things out of the air and putting them together. So, and the other thing it taught me too, which I've been able to do with the first show, is writing on there's a section in this play, as we're running, there's a section that is kind of fill in the blanks, and every day it'll be a little different, you know. Insert killer line here about the election. This is what it amounts to, depending on who's put their foot in their mouth today. So that's always a challenge too, and it's the storyteller's thing. It's always a little different every time.
Well, Marshall, it is wonderful to have you back. It's wonderful to have Lucien back too, and I really look forward to the opening night.
I'm glad you do.
Well, yeah, it's going to be great. Okay. You know it is. Come on, don't be modest. Thank you very much for coming, and best of luck for the season.
Thank you.
And when you get back to Ontario with your other season.
Yeah. Well, there's no place like home, eh?
No.
Okay.
I don't know about you, but I write quite a few letters. And it suddenly struck me that every time I go to mail the letters, I stick a miniature work of art on the envelope. And that's what gets my letter eventually, if Canada Post chooses it to. eventually gets my letter to the person I'm writing to. But I was intrigued with these miniature works of art, and I was trying to think, who could I ask about this? Well, the gentleman I've got is much more well known as a poet and as an educator, but he's also a very knowledgeable secret stamp collector, and that's Michael Nolan. Hello, Michael.
Hi, George. How are you today?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Michael, these miniature works of art, stamps, they are so beautiful.
Yeah. Many of them are, there's no question, and especially Canadian stamps. Canadian stamps have won awards for their artistic design, for their creativeness, for their colourful presentation and so on. And I think among some of the best or the most colourful stamps in the world, Canadian stamps.
But we haven't been getting beautiful stamps for all that long, have we, in Canada?
No, I'd say the last 20 years. The last 20 years we've had some very beautiful stamps. There were some very artistic ones before that, but for the most part before 1970, 1960, probably about mid-60s, they were probably in one or two colours. Most of the stamps up to that time were in one or two colours. But when they moved to multicolour reproductions, they got some very fine stamps.
And there's all sorts of techniques now, aren't they? Because, I mean, they use photography on stamps quite often, don't they?
They do. They used the computer images for the Olympic stamps last year, and which...
Really?
They were all computer images, the Winter Olympics, Summer Olympics. They weren't very popular stamps. They weren't voted popular stamps. In fact, they were voted the most terrible stamps of 1992. But they were done by computer art. That's how they were designed. Yeah.
Who designs them? I mean, how does a pretty stamp come into being?
Well, the stamps are designed, well, Canada Post Corporation wants to decide on their what they're going to have for a stamp, for a particular issue of a stamp. They hire a professional artist or artists. Sometimes they hire a firm to design the stamp or the series of stamps if it happens to be a series. But before that, long before that, they decide what they're going to issue stamps for. And in recent years, they've been issuing a series of 12 stamps for Canada Day, and it usually comes out on the 30th of June. They issue stamps for Christmas. They issue the Remembrance Day stamps. And they honor different people. And there's the Rivers series, which started 3 years ago, and the St. John River was one of those this past year. It came out in August. But they decide what they're going to issue stamps on, and then they develop their program, and it's usually developed a year and a half ahead of time. In other words, the 1994 stamp program is set. They know already, a pretty good idea right now what stamps will be issued in 1994. They may not know what they're all going to look like right now, but I'm sure they have designs for many of them already.
You as a collector, I mean, do you know what's going to come?
No, I don't.
You don't know until they're announced?
I won't know until they're announced, that's right. Yeah. And as a writer about stamps, I'll get the information ahead of time, usually a few months ahead of time. But so far, it'll be January before we get any information on any of the new issues for 1994.
Yeah. Michael, you've brought lots of examples.
Yeah. I brought some things in, George, that show you the two sides of the stamp, or the postage stamp, as a work of art. And first of all, there's art on stamps, as we have in this particular series. And this was the Canada Day series in 1981, where a series of images to represent each of the provinces and the territories. There's a Beaubank one here for New Brunswick. There's a Christopher Pratt for Newfoundland. There's a Colville. There are a number of others of the rather well-known Canadian artists on this one. So those are actually works of art used on postage stamps. And then you go to the other side of that, where the postage stamp itself becomes the work of art. And this is the Rivers series I spoke about a few minutes ago, and this is the 1993 Rivers series, and the St. John River one here, and so on. To me, they're very artistic, extremely artistic.
Absolutely.
And the 1993 Canada Day series, if I can find it here among, oh, it's on the back of this, I think, there it is. the 1993 Canada series, those are real, to me they're probably among the most artistic stamps that Canada has produced. And this is the Algonquin Park in Ontario. That's a beautiful sunset, you know, just fabulous.
And there's the rocks.
And there's the rocks, the Hopewell rocks in Albert County, right. And so there's one there for each of the, represents some aspect of each of the provinces. The provincial parks was the theme of that particular series. But there's art, the postage stamp as a work of art in that particular instance.
That's a very beautiful one, that Alberta one,
yes,
right
it is,
on
yeah.
Stone Park.
Yeah, that's
They're
right.
all parks.
Yeah,
This
they're
is
all
a
provincial. They're all
parks.
provincial parks. They're not national parks. They're provincial parks. Yeah.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, that's right. And like you say, as your opening there today was that whole idea that when you put a stamp on an envelope, you are actually putting a work of art on an envelope. And many people don't look at it that way. They look at it as a means to get the letter from here to there, and they don't go beyond that. Perhaps the most exciting pieces of art, as it were, on Canadian stamps are the Masterpieces of Canadian Art series that started 6 years ago, and this is the last of it, 1993. This particular one.
That's Canadian, is it?
That's right, yeah. And the other, there's David Milne, was 1992, and the Emily Carr and Tom Thompson. I love the West Wind. I always did, and it has a beautiful stamp, and the way they've designed it, and the motif that the natives wore around their neck, and the second one, and the first one is printed the boy reading the story, the
Osius Leduc.
Osius Leduc, right? Yeah. Yeah.
And now these are spectacular because they've used metallics as well.
That's right, and that's another aspect again of the design that makes it artistic. And the first 5 in the series were sort of a silver border, and this year they resorted to the gold border. I'm not sure which one I like the best. I think I like the silver the best. It seems to stand out.
Very
although the gold is, I think, appropriate for the overall design of the owl in this particular one.
I must say, when I send off a stamp of this quality, particularly to another country, it makes you very proud, doesn't it?
Well, I think it does, and again, I'd be biased because I've been collecting stamps since I was about 10 years old, and looking at stamps, whenever I see a stamp, I take an extra look to see what's on it and where it comes from and so on. Yeah.
Do you specialise, Michael? You have a lot of Canadian stamps.
Yes, we're largely Canadian. I have a US used that's just developing, and then I have a few odds and ends of different things from other places that strike my fancy and I happen to pick up from time to time. Yeah.
But Canadian stamps, as you said earlier, they are so beautiful at the moment, aren't they?
That's right, they are. And you mentioned how does a stamp, excuse me, come into being there earlier too. That was the that anyone in Canada can suggest a topic for a stamp. Anybody can do that. Some people think, well, the bureaucrats.
I've decided that this transfer is trash. I don't like how the TriCaster has calibrated the input. So I'll keep playing it for you guys, but I'm going to transfer it again on my own time. It's way too saturated. The colors aren't perfect. So I'll try recalibrating and then I'll transfer this again. Sorry for the interruption.
The address. I don't have a postal code handy, but you can pick that up at any post office.
How do stamps get printed? Who prints them?
Who prints them? The Canadian Banknote Company looks like they're going to be the winners in the struggle to print all of Canada's stamps for 1994, because the company that did most of the stamps, including the Masterpieces in Canadian Art series, Ashton Potter Limited, and they went bankrupt in the summer. In fact, the last ones they did were the car series. That's the cars that come out in August. I think that's the last ones. No, the last ones they did were the folk song series that came out first week in September.
Right.
They were the last ones Ashton Potter did, and that's the end of their contract with Canada Post, and they went bankrupt well before that. So they won't be doing any more, and which is unfortunate because Ashton Potter had a very fine quality printing, and they printed some beautiful stamps. So the contract was, I think, in recent years, Ashton Potter did probably 75 to 80% of Canadian stamps, while the Canadian Banknote Company did the rest of them. But it looks, I was reading something not too long ago, it looks like Canadian Banknote Company will probably do all of the stamps from 1994.
And I was very interested, a purely technical thing, but it says where you've got this sort of presentation set here, it says the artist and where the work is, who printed it. It says Ashton Potter, as you were saying, and the designer of the stamp, Pierre-Yves Pelletier, and then the printing there really staggered me, all the samples, because that means that there were 7 printings, 7 different colours were used to get that stamp out.
That's true, yeah. And this is, again, this is the colour coding that they go through. And most stamps have that on them. They, for example, this is a photograph for the newspaper of the car stamps, and they have that on there too, you see. And when you get into multicolours, you have to have your overlays, and you keep, in order to produce the fine art that is there, you have to do that.
This, again, you know, going back to that point about people not realising they're sticking a work of art on their envelope, but also the calibre of the work of art, I mean, just as the printer's art is really remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because the detailing in, I mean, to produce that David Milne, for instance, I mean, that's a very subtle piece of work, and to print it so tiny.
That's right, to reduce it as they have. And that's, I think that again is something we have to consider when we look at the work of art on a postage stamp, is the printer does have a major role. And that's why Ashton Potter has, it's sad to see the company go bankrupt, because they were able to produce the multicolors, the fine artistic designs, and so on and so forth. And I hope the Canadian Banknote Company is able to pick that up and to continue that kind of trend, because in the past they weren't able to. So I trust they will be able to. Yeah.
Michael, have you got any special favourites amongst Canadian stamps? Any that you feel very strongly about? I mean, I know you were saying how beautiful those landscapes.
I have no specific favorite. There's one stamp I collect. I collect a lot of them, and that's the 1934 2-cent stamp that commemorates New Brunswick's 150th anniversary of the founding of the province.
Oh, really?
And I have a few hundred of that stamp, that particular stamp. What I'm doing now, I'm collecting postmarks, clear, readable postmarks of that particular stamp.
How interesting.
I have some first day covers. I have 3 first day covers. One first day cover has a block of 4 on it. So it's there are different things you can do with the postage stamps other than put them in envelopes, especially as a collector, and you can go on and on with it. But that 1934 one is, I don't have a copy of it here. It's here in the catalog. But to me, it's a beautiful. It's artistically designed as well, and here it is right there, and it has the great seal of New Brunswick on it. So it's being as patriotic as I am to New Brunswick, I guess I selected that one too. And there are a lot of stories behind that one, and I don't have them all yet. But.
Tired of spending your time indoors watching the same old thing on television? Try spending it watching the best outdoor sports show around. Watch NB Sportsman Wednesdays at 6:30 and Sundays at 1:30 p.m. only on Friendly Cable 10, your community channel.
All right, well, I'm kind of bummed that I had to stop the I had to abort the transfer because I realized the color just was not very good, and I'm not sure. I mean, we're talking U-matic here, so God knows the any color bars on U-matic probably isn't great. Oh, I just thought of something. We saw it. I have a clip of color bars on this DVD recorder. So I could just play that and use that to calibrate the input. There we go. And I'm going to assume, just looking at them, that they're 75% bars. Oh, crap. I left the remote for this thing at home, so I don't have the, I can't pause. Okay, let me back up here. No, dang it. Well, maybe that got it. Let's take a look and see. The tape is too stiff to rewind, so I have to do a reverse search back to the beginning. Oh, I guess I don't have to go back to the beginning. I guess I'll look back anyway. I need to see some human skin. Okay, I need to see some decently lit human skin.
The big one that came up that day was bad TV reception they're getting, and it's that new CBC station in Fredericton. They're not getting good reception from that, so this was an issue in the town. But
That looks okay. It's still different than the direct feed, but I think not as bad.
Original members of the very first meeting of Comedy Asylum, there were people there like Norm Foster.
It's adding a little more saturation, but I don't think that's a bad thing. So, the thing to know about a TriCaster is that, well, I already spoke about, they're not 100% stable by virtue of being an IBM compatible PC. They're not perfect machines either, especially if you're dealing with analog stuff instead of digital. They are not perfect machines. That's why you got an entire television station in a box for $10,000 instead of buying an individual switcher and mixer and everything that would add up to $50,000, right? We'll go back to the other guy. Oh my god, it's almost 8 o'clock here, and we've only done 2 tapes, and only one of them I actually transferred. Oh well. Oh, we're still the other guy. Okay.
As a writer about stamps, I'll get the information ahead of time.
Oh, no, that's interesting.
Usually a few months ahead of time.
Oh, it turned down the set. Oh, I've been looking at the inputs backwards. This time the TriCaster actually reduced the saturation. Interesting. Well, let me turn it up to basically default then.
And first of all, there's
We'll start there and see how it looks.
Series, and this was the Canada Day series 1981, where a series of images to represent each of the provinces and the territories.
There, that looks pretty much exact. I'll go with that, and I'll retransfer this tape. But let's go on to another tape. Let me go to my actually I've got a box right here. There's so many tapes just in this little nook here that I won't have to go into the server room or our storage room to look for tapes for a very long time. So, let's try this one. One moment in time. Governor General visits Fredericton High School. And the date recorded says 89, so I assume 1989. This cassette contains raw footage following the program for dubs only. Okay. It is I'm guessing a 3M cassette. And it doesn't look like it has mold on it, which is good. Yeah, as opposed to 2089. Alright, well, we'll transfer this tape then. At least the U-matic machine's behaving itself. Okay. And do that, and we'll see what I haven't even checked to see how many viewers we got going on here. 10 viewers, cool. Alright, let's do this. Oh, somebody sure left a lot of notes for the VTR operators. And lots of mauve color bars. This is very
Her Excellency
dramatic.
Jean Sauvé, the Governor-General of Canada, was born in 1922 in the Francophone community of Prudhomme, Saskatchewan. She was one of 7 children. In 1925, the family moved to Ottawa. In 1940, in Montreal, she met Maurice Sauvé, whom she married. He later became an active member of the Liberal administrations of
This is a camera pointed at a photograph. If on a normal television screen you can't see the obvious table to the very left side of the photo, that because the photo's slightly askew, but on our view, because we see the entire electronic, we see the entire picture, we can see that it's just a photograph and not a superimposed graphic.
Revealed a great talent for communicating with youth. Madame Sauvé first entered politics herself in 1972, when she was elected as member for Quebec in Trudeau's administration and became Minister for Science and Technology. She was the first woman from Quebec to be a cabinet minister. She became Minister of the Environment in 1974. Always noted as a strong supporter for the rights of women, Madame Sauvé was as well a strong advocate for Quebec remaining in Confederation. In 1984, Trudeau chose Madame Sauvé as the Speaker of the House of Commons, the first woman to hold that position. She established a reputation as a strong and fair chairman of the daily activities of the House, the role that the Speaker fulfills. In December of 1983, she was appointed Governor-General of Canada, the first woman to hold this position. She is the 23rd Governor-General. Since 1952, all Governors-General have been Canadian-born. Background information on Her Excellency Jean Sauvé comes from her biography by Shirley Woods, published by Macmillan of Canada in 1986. On her arrival at Fredericton High, Her Excellency was greeted by His Worship, the Mayor of Fredericton, Brad Woodside. He then accompanied her as she visited briefly with children from the neighboring Priestman Street Elementary School. His Worship introduced School Board Chairman Dr. Hurley, Superintendent Dr. Miller. She then met the school principal, Mr. Woodward, and entered the school. Inside the school, she was introduced to members of the administration, the President of the Faculty Association, and the Executive of the Student Council. The party then entered the gymnasium.
Your Excellency, Your Worship, Dr. Hurley, Dr. Miller, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. On this occasion, I am indeed pleased to welcome to Fredericton High School Her Excellency the Right Honorable Jean Sauvé, Governor-General of Canada. We are honored, Your Excellency, that you have chosen to visit our school as part of your official visit to the province of New Brunswick, and it has been your express desire to see all students and staff of the school. Bienvenue à Fredericton High School. Fredericton High School is a composite school serving students in business, special education, home economics, industrial, auxiliary, practical, and academic departments. In 1785, 1 year after the arrival of the United Empire Loyalists at Fredericton, the institution to be known as Fredericton High School was established and today is Canada's oldest English high school.
This tape is not in good shape.
A prestigious history is a feature of Fredericton High School, Your Excellency, and you may enjoy just a few points of interest. Enrollment has grown from 17 to approximately 3,000 students. In 1785, there were 3 disciplines: Latin, algebra, and English. In 1807, tuition was £2 per year for students taught to read and write. That was a third-class education. There was an additional £1 per year for arithmetic. The first-class education with all disciplines, however, cost £5 per year. In 1836, the founding of a Baptist seminary permitted non-Anglicans as well as females the right to an education. In 1837, the grandfather of Sir Charles G.D. Roberts became the principal of the school. Later, Sir Charles G.D. Roberts and his cousin Bliss Carman were both to attend Fredericton High School. In 1872, the first female high school teacher, Miss L.J. Gregory, was hired. The principal of Fredericton High School in 1872 was Sir George E. Foster, who was to become acting Prime Minister of Canada in 1920. In 1877, the principal was Sir George Parkin, whose daughter became the wife of a former Governor-General of Canada, the Right Honourable Vincent Massey. In 1929, the enrollment had grown to 445 students and enforced plans for a new building. History repeated itself with enrollment growth necessitating the construction of this present building in 1970. In the future, our successors will be quick to add that the Governor-General of Canada visited Fredericton High School on April the 5th, 1989. Your Excellency, you have had a distinguished career, and time this morning does not permit a resume. But we are pleased you have accepted to extend briefly your tenure as Governor-General of Canada, enabling you to be here today. Your dedication to the work ethic, your work with the media, and especially with young people, your contribution to political life and to your country are an inspiration to all of us to strive to contribute to the well-being of our nation. The school district officials, the staff, and the students are happy to welcome Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Jan Sauvé, Governor-General of Canada, to Fredericton High School. At this time, I would ask that the President of the Student Representative Council, Mr. Jason Saunders, make a presentation to Her Excellency in commemoration of this visit. Jason.
Your Excellency, Your Worship, Dr. Hurley, Dr. Miller, Mr. Woodward, distinguished guests, teachers, fellow students, ladies and gentlemen. Fredericton High School is the oldest English high school in Canada, as well as the largest. The history of our school spans over 200 years, dating back to 1785 and the first settlers of Fredericton. The pioneers of that time worked hard and established the roots that would grow into our city of stately elms, and the school was a big part of that. Their success resulted in this city we now call home. The school motto is derived from this concept: Palma no sine povera, freely translated from the Latin, no success without work. The same spirit is as alive today as it has ever been. The plaque which you see before you was entirely handcrafted here at Fredericton High School by our own Mr. McNamara. Engraved on it is our motto. Your Excellency, we feel this is a proper symbol because your career is the epitome of success through work. I would now like to offer you, Your Excellency, this plaque and these mementos as tokens of esteem from the over 3,000 students and staff at Fredericton High School.
Thank you, Jason. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in welcoming Her Excellency, the Right Honorable Jan Sauvé, Governor General of Canada, to address this Assembly.
Mr. Principal, Mr. Mayor, respected education authorities, professors, students, thank you very much for such a warm welcome. Standing before you reminds me of an occasion when I had to address about as many as you are Chinese students in Shanghai. And as I got up, I wondered if they understood English, or whether I would have to make a speech through a translator, which is always very difficult to do. So I asked them, how many of you understand English? So there were enough of them. And I went on in English and gave them a talk on Canada, just basic facts about Canada. And they were, of course, fascinated. Living in a country that has been closed to other countries and to the realities of the world, they were extremely curious to find out about Canada. Just think back to those students and to yourselves. You go to school among a community who's devoted to the well-being of that school. This one of the oldest schools, it is the oldest English-speaking school in Canada, and it was only fitting that I would come to visit it. And that talking to you, I would try to wonder what Canada is expecting of you. At this point in my career, having spent most of my life in public service, I often wonder what kind of world we have left behind us, and what kind of young people do we have to pick up from where we left it. And if you don't mind, I'll talk to you about this for a few minutes. You know that I have always kept an interest in young people. In my youth, I was quite an active student politician. And I carried that out faithfully throughout my life, becoming an adult politician. And then when I began my professional career, I suggested to the CBC that we should have a half-hour discussion among young people so that adults and young people alike should become aware of the issues which interest them. And that program lasted for 7 years. I left it only because I was a little bit tired of doing it. I guess it would be still going on if I hadn't left it. But there was a great interest for it. Strangely enough, the adult audience was larger than the student audience. That's understandable because students have a lot of things to do, and in those days anyway, didn't spend too many hours in front of television. So I've kept that interest, and I have made it one of the themes of my mandate as Governor General. And when I leave, I will set up a foundation for young people, which will be responsible for financing an annual international meeting for young people, where young people of all the countries of the world will be able to come together to discuss the issues that interest them. Among those issues will be those problems that we have left behind us. I make no apologies for what we've left behind us. We did our best, and I'm not that kind of adult who beats his breast, feeling guilty. Yes, we weren't perfect, and we didn't do it all, but we did our best with the circumstances we had. And that's all that you'll be able to do as well. But in order to achieve only that, you'll have to have a very acute awareness of the problems that face you. And your problems will be more complex and more complicated than ours were. First of all, Canada has never been an island, but is less an island than it ever was. Canadians have to compose, have to interface with the whole world. And Canadians who are mostly inward looking, because I remember in my political campaigns, I could spend a whole campaign without evoking one single international issue. And if I didn't do it, it's because I knew that people were not terribly interested and that I couldn't get elected by talking about these things. But today it has changed. A survey of the interests of Canadians has revealed that Canadians think that peace is the most important problem for them. Then they go down to unemployment and economic growth and all these other practical things that, of course, interest us. But they put peace ahead of everything because they are conscious that without peace, nothing really good can happen, even in Canada. So those will be the issues which will be facing you. But you are facing it, the matter of peace, the problem of peace, in a context that has never been so optimistic. You see the coldness between the two great powers of the world melting, and you see that that part of the world which was provoking our standard and our way of life are now beginning to think that perhaps ours is not so bad. They are beginning to introduce values of democracy into their systems and of free enterprise, because they know that freedom, if not exactly free enterprise, but freedom brings creativity and initiative. If your mind isn't free, you cannot bring out of you that uniqueness that each and every one has. These are the basic things which they have come to grip with and have realized that it now requires a total change of their system. If they are going to be able to survive, let alone the matter of competing with the rest of the world. As Canadians, as people who live in the so-called free world, we will be living in a world that is more and more competitive. And what does that have to say to us? It says to us that the only way that we will be able to live a full life will be if we bring out the best in each and every one of ourselves. Only the excellent and the very good will be able to survive in this world of increased competitiveness. Markets are opening up, and as you know, Canadians were never prosperous only with their internal consumption of goods. 75% of our production goes out to other countries, and therefore if we want to maintain our standard of living, we have to continue to export. And in order to export in this competitive world, we have to be better and better. It's the only way. But it's a very challenging thing, isn't it? Because it asks of us a greater effort, and it brings the hope that we can be as good and even better than anybody else. And if you don't have that, you get very bored with life and you see no meaning to it. But this is the great challenge of this generation, because you have new countries coming into the world market in what were called before underdeveloped countries. And they are coming into a new category of countries, and they are competing with us. And therefore, we have to show by the quality of our life, by the quality of what we have to offer the rest of the world, we have to show what we really are. This is the challenges before you. And this generation will have to be more and more aware, because if there is a lot of hope out there, there are also a lot of very, very important problems, like the problem of disarmament, which we have not succeeded in overcoming completely. We're on the way, but we haven't succeeded. You'll have to finish the job. The very great problem of pollution, conservation of the planet, which should not depress us, because it's certain that we can find the means of growing, of developing, still preserving the environment. When I was Minister of the Environment, I remember speaking to a class of engineer students and asked them, talked to them about including the protection of the environment in any engineering project. And they didn't know what I was talking about. But that is the essential thing. Protecting the planet does not mean that we have to stop growing. It means that we have to rationalize that growth and put into any plan to grow a plan to protect the environment. And it is not above our talents and our imagination to do it.
Very forward thinking.
So these are the things that will be facing you. I will do my little share by giving you a forum where you can come together and discuss these things, compare with students and young people of other countries to see how they perceive the problem, how they think it can be solved, and what kind of attitude they have towards these problems. And they're everybody's problems today. There's no such thing as a Canadian problem. So one has to you have to open your mind to the dimension of the total planet. Get to know all the sensitivities of all these other people, how you can penetrate their thinking. In order to do that, you have to understand what their culture is made of and what their way of life is made of. But I want to tell you again how moved I am by your very warm welcome, and how pleased and privileged I feel I have been.
I know that was B-roll that was probably shot before or after she started speaking, but it still looked like half of them just weren't paying attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency. In commemoration of your visit here today, I would ask that you would sign our distinguished guest book.
You know what I'm back here for, eh? You come from District 26? How many of you come from District 26? 51? District 51? There's none from District 50. Anyway, District 56 has a day off on Friday.
On behalf of the faculty and student body of Fredericton High School, I extend thanks to Her Excellency for her visit and for her challenging remarks to this audience. I am sure that you would have wanted a reminder made, and I did want to be able to live in the future. Your visit brought expectations, and I'm sure that the student body in District 26 and 51 are very pleased to accept your generous offer. We have been honored by your visit, and we would ask that you accept our gratitude for coming today.
She originally planned to visit Fredericton High in the fall of 1988, but this visit was canceled due to the calling of the federal election. It must be noted that it was the expressed wish of the Governor General to visit Fredericton High and to see all the students. To facilitate this, students were assembled in the main gymnasium, the cafeteria, the theater, the library, and all the way along the school halls for the planned walkabout. Prior to her departure from the school, her aide, Lieutenant Nadeau, informed us that Her Excellency presents gifts only to heads of state. Nevertheless, the school did receive a gift from Rideau Hall. The gift, a photo, is now prominently displayed at FHS as a constant reminder of April 5th, 1989, the day the Governor General of Canada visited the school.
Like the superimposed the characters. Very classy. Here comes the raw footage.
And students of Fredericton High School. Bienvenue à Fredericton High School, l'école secondaire anglaise la plus ancienne au Canada. My name is Bill Thorpe, and I'm one of the 4 vice principals at Fredericton High School. It is a distinct pleasure for me to call upon 2 of our students to make a presentation to Your Excellency on behalf of all the students. In front of you are approximately 400 students from our French immersion and French core programs. Both programs are of long standing in this school, in recognition that Fredericton is the capital of an officially bilingual province, the only such province in Canada. I will first call upon Sarah Haley, qui parlera sur le sujet Vivre en français à Fredericton et au Nouveau-Brunswick. Sarah Haley.
Votre Excellence, bienvenue à Fredericton High School. Pour moi, vivre dans une province bilingue comme ici au Nouveau-Brunswick présente divers avantages. Dans le domaine de l'éducation, par exemple, nous avons le choix de nous instruire soit en anglais, soit en français. Si les cours ici à l'Université du Nouveau-Brunswick ne répondent pas à nos besoins, nous pouvons choisir d'étudier à Moncton, qui a une université de langue française. Étant anglophone, je crois que la meilleure façon d'apprendre à parler français, c'est de vivre dans un milieu totalement français. Et j'ai eu cette chance l'été passé. J'ai participé à un programme que l'Université de Moncton offre aux jeunes anglophones. J'ai vécu 1 mois en résidence où il y avait un règlement majeur. Français, français, français. À la fin, j'avais fait connaissance de nouveaux amis et j'avais amélioré mon français à 100%. Au moins 50%. Le même genre de programme existe à Fredericton pour les jeunes francophones. Dans mon cas, Le français, c'est plus qu'une matière scolaire. Beaucoup d'emplois offerts dans notre province exigent le bilinguisme. C'est ainsi que, pour l'été qui vient, on m'a offert un emploi parce que je peux utiliser les deux langues. Sur le plan culturel, qu'on parle du théâtre ou de la musique, on retrouve encore les avantages de la province bilingue. Ici à Fredericton, il y a deux centres très importants pour le développement culturel de notre ville. Ce sont le Playhouse et le Centre communautaire Sainte-Anne. On a donc la chance d'assister à des spectacles professionnels qui sont présentés par différentes troupes de théâtre, comme Theatre New Brunswick, le Théâtre populaire d'Acadie, la compagnie Viola Légère ou d'autres. Du côté musical, il y a notre festival annuel auquel jeunes et adultes peuvent s'inscrire. Je participe pleinement à ce festival parce que je peux chanter non seulement dans ma langue maternelle, mais aussi en français. Et j'apprécie beaucoup à ce moment-là d'être évalué par un juge qui connaît très bien les deux langues. Comme vous le voyez, Votre Excellence, une province bilingue offre plusieurs avantages, non seulement aux jeunes, mais aussi aux gens de toute génération. Je suis heureuse de vivre au Nouveau-Brunswick. Et s'il y a une chose dont je suis sûre, c'est que je sais en profiter.
Merci beaucoup, Sarah. The next speaker will be Jonathan Coates, giving his observations under the title Personal Reflections on French Immersion. Jonathan.
Your Excellency, Madame Jeanne Sauvé, and fellow students, it is an honor and a privilege to stand before you today, and I speak on a topic which has become an important part of the educational system in New Brunswick. Having use of a second language can enhance your life by providing not only a stepping stone in the business community, but also in providing a tool for your own self-improvement and enjoyment. It is a valuable asset in the classroom, the boardroom, and even a neighbor's living room. If you have ever read a book which has been translated, or watched a movie where the soundtrack has been pre-recorded into your mother tongue, you will understand when I say that many of the expressions are lost, and many of the jokes or points do not have the same impact as they do in their original language. The French immersion and core French programs here in Fredericton are largely responsible for the quality French students speak today. I've been enrolled in the French immersion program since grade 1 because my parents understood the advantages of being bilingual. I'm grateful they did because it has given me an opportunity which has been invaluable. I've also taken part in various debating and public speaking competitions, both provincially, nationally, and also in the French and bilingual categories. In the future, I know it will help me in the business and legal field I hope to enter. Knowing a second language gives me more confidence to pursue these endeavors. Learning a second language, I'm sure Her Excellency will agree, opens many doors and helps tear down any barricades which existed so that we may relate more readily and with greater friendship towards those who speak another language. We have a great opportunity in a bilingual province, and we should make the best of it. Programs such as French immersion are the backbone to harmony and cooperation between two cultures. I would like to thank Her Excellency for coming and showing her interest in the youth of this country. Thank you, the students, for your attention, and I hope your second language will help you to achieve success in the future.
Well, students, I've just finished his speech in the other room, so I won't burden you with a new one. But I do want to greet you and congratulate you for having chosen this immersion option. I think, as one of your colleagues has just said, it will only bring advantages to you in your life, perhaps material advantages, but more than that, spiritual and intellectual satisfaction, which is not the least important thing in life. Alors je suis tout à fait heureuse de vous saluer, même si c'est seulement brièvement. Je viens de faire un discours dans l'autre auditorium où j'ai parlé longuement aux étudiants et peut-être pouviez-vous entendre le discours. Je ne sais pas s'il était diffusé dans les salles où vous étiez, mais enfin vous pourrez peut-être parler avec eux pour savoir exactement ce que j'avais à dire à des jeunes. Mais en gros, c'était un message d'espoir que les jeunes, grâce aux efforts qu'ils font maintenant pour développer le maximum de leurs aptitudes, pourront prendre en main le monde que nous leur léguons. Je vous remercie et je vous félicite.
Merci beaucoup, Son Excellence. Would you please rise for the Governor General's statement?
Just go over the chronology over here on the wall. We have our headmasters, of course, eventually called principals, going back to 1832. This is a brief history of the school here, and these two gentlemen, Mr. Whitney, alluded to in this conversation. Sir George Foster here, who's Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Robert Gordon, who signed the Treaty of Versailles on behalf of Canada. Yes, and this is Sir George Parkin here, who's his daughter Mary. Foster was from the Sussex area.
And Massey, where was he from?
No, Massey was from Ontario.
Anyway,
I don't know where they had met. Yes. Those are probably our two most distinguished, and of course this chap, Parkin, had a tremendous influence on Carmen, on Charles W. Roberts, and Francis Sherman, who gave Fredericton the name the Poets' Corner of Canada. So the school has had a tremendous impact on the community. And of course, we need to go on to our more recent we have the graduating pictures going right back to 1890. Our first ones. So they're kind of.
So what did it start off as a private school?
Started off as an Anglican school, just for Anglican boys.
Oh, yes.
For paid subscription, right? And remained that way for some time.
Yeah.
In 1871, we had the Free Schools Act in New Brunswick, and that permitted all sorts of different categories of students to enter the school.
So they had to take in others.
After
and at that time,
1871.
but it still wasn't free. You didn't have free education. Did you?
Yes, after 1871, Free Schools Act, which means exactly that. Yeah.
Was that elementary school then?
They ought to be elementary.
Oh,
yes.
it was elementary.
And that's, of course, you can almost see the range of the effect of something like a world war on this school. There were 13 members of this school killed in the First World War, and that's the list of those who served over there in the war. So, very considerable impact on the student body.
You keep the history alive.
Yes, very much. So we have all the graduates in the school. Thank you.
Thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
Excellent visit.
Chris?
Interesting choice of slides here with the blinking colons and stuff. I'm going to assume there's going to be some raw footage of something that used to be on the tape after this. I suppose I'll stop the recording and shuttle ahead. My colleague slash bestie Vicky took, or is still taking, French lessons from Duolingo. She's been doing it for at least 2 years now. And she's good enough to carry on a conversation in French, I think. She does it, like, at least every week. I know sometimes I think, I don't know if she's still doing it every day, but it was quite a long time. She was doing lessons every day. As for me, I don't speak a lick of French. You know, I believe New Brunswick's the only officially bilingual province, but someone recently told me that Manitoba was too, which I've never heard of that being a thing. Let me see. Manitoba bilingual. It used to be bilingual. Oh, but it's not anymore. It was established as an officially bilingual province in 1870. It was shortly after that they ended French language services. In 1985, the Supreme Court of Canada found it constitutional. So it's... Oh, we have more stuff. So it's not, let me see. Oh, this display is bright. Yeah, it's true. Manitoba is officially bilingual. It's the only one aside from New Brunswick, I think. If this Wikipedia article is correct. All right. Yeah, let's digitize this curling game, I guess. There's only a few seconds of the tape left.
Now.
I think he probably just swallowed a cigar.
Well, here comes Bonnie. She made the last one. They jump on this one right away. Gabrielle going out to help.
She gave it a little push at the log line. Jack, I think she's come up light.
I don't think there's any doubt about it, and she turns a little frustrating and just gets over the hog line.
That's too bad.
Well, it's a shame, really, you know, when she has that
for Newfoundland
shot, but
for Newfoundland, Jack, that gives them a record of 7-2, and that guarantees them at least a shot at the. And the worst they're going to be tomorrow when they crow is in a tiebreaker situation.
Well, they'll be finished tomorrow night, and Friday has been reserved for tiebreakers, I believe, Friday morning and Friday afternoon. And
look at those graphics! Wow.
Yes, they will be in a good position.
This was
nice thing about it is
mid-'80s.
they control their own destiny. They win tomorrow,
If
they're
not
in the
earlier.
playoffs.
That's exactly right, eh? And they have to feel good after coming from last year at 0-10 and being in a situation where they are right now at 7-2. The other, just to run down the other games, Alberta, Saskatchewan defeated Alberta 8-4. New Brunswick defeated Quebec 9-1, and Nova Scotia and Ontario are playing now with Ontario ahead of Nova Scotia in the ninth end at 8-4. And PEI are playing the Yukon Territories in the 10th end. They're ahead 6-3. So from the Capital Winter Club in Fredericton, this is we're signing off from
1985. All right, that was cool. Only a minute and a half, but that was still cool. And that was the end of yet another program, so 3 layers of recording. And that's probably a 4th layer of recording. They would just reuse and reuse and reuse tapes. That's why so much vintage television material is lost. Tapes are reused to save money. Well, guys, I think I'm going to call it a stream for tonight. I would do more, but I have to retransfer that this arts magazine. So I'll do that. And yeah, we'll keep it going. Everything seemed to work well tonight. Once I got the TriCaster's analog circuits dialed in for the second input, I think I want to do a little more dialing. I think there's just a tad too much green going on. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Really, really appreciate it. And it's good to be digging into these tapes again. So we'll keep doing this whenever I find the time and energy to do it. And I hope you guys join me as we go along and keep exploring vintage community television programming. So thank you so much. And I'll see you next time. Good night.